You were saying that with the MDMA therapy, you're almost recreating that memory, but now in a kind of a different plane or a different medium. I was wondering if you could explain what you meant by that.
Yeah. Well, when you have a traumatic memory, when you have a traumatic incident, a lot of times because you have to respond very quickly and your life is at stake, or you perceive it to be at stake, that the memories don't get processed in the normal way that we process memories. They get sort of stuck in this fear mode. And then when people survive the trauma, that whenever they think back on it, the trauma is as if it's still happening. It hasn't really been cycled into long-term memory. It's
Right.
kind of like hovering there, and people are constantly triggered by whatever sounds that might have happened at the time of their trauma. For soldiers, it's loud noises, or if somebody was raped, it's a dark alley or whatever. That there's constant triggers that make it seem as if it's still happening now.
Right.
And so under the influence of MDMA, with the fear response muted to the trauma, that you can remember the trauma to a deeper, fuller extent. And a lot of times people recover memories that they had forgotten that were just so painful. But then when you're looking at them from a perspective where your fear response is muted, and MDMA also increases activity in the frontal cortex,
Right.
where we put things in context, and it promotes oxytocin and prolactin research, hormones of bonding and affiliation and love, that you can reroute the memory in your brain and you can properly put it into long-term storage, so that when you recreate the memory, sort of rewrite the memory, that it's rewritten without the fear, and you can learn from it and differentiate between then and now.
So it can finally be processed just like any other event in your life.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being it's like almost frozen in time, yet
Yeah.
still amplified.
Yeah, very much. And so this new understanding of memory reconsolidation, that every time you remember something, you have to actually recreate the memory, and which helps explain how, for some people, one MDMA experience can be sufficient.
Right, because it kind of finally resolves that piece. Well, it finally processes that piece.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then your initial response to it isn't the fear and the panic. So what the study that we're trying to do here at Cardiff University, which now we have half the funds through MAPS and Beckley Foundation, and hopefully we've been rejected by the Wellcome Trust, by Forces in Mind Trust,
Okay.
by the traditional.
Why? But Wellcome has funded some of Nutt's research in the past?
Not yet.
They stay away from the psychedelics?
Well, David helped arrange for a meeting a couple of years ago with Ben Sessa and Dr. Ben Sessa here, who's going to do the Cardiff study.
Okay.
And Dr. Peter Owen, who did our Swiss MDMA PTSD study, and myself. We went to the Wellcome Trust. And what shocked me is that they started talking about their reputational risk of getting involved with MDMA research. And I was sitting there thinking, you guys have $20 billion, and you are cowards, and you are worried about your reputational risk. I mean...
Right, you're the charity. They shouldn't have a reputation, is that what you're saying?
Well, they should... So what I told them is, this is a reputational opportunity.
Right.
You could get involved on the ground floor of an area that looks very promising for the treatment of PTSD. One of the subjects in our study, we saved the Veterans Administration $1.5 million.
Okay.
Because there's a backlog of people who have PTSD. The VA can't see them all. One of the subjects in our study, about 1.5 years ago, before he entered the study, applied for disability payments. And he was somebody who several days a week couldn't even leave the house. And so he couldn't hold a job.
Right.
And time goes by, nobody called him. Over a year went by, and he still hadn't been called for his appointment. And so he saw our study, and he volunteered for our study. And after 2 MDMA sessions, he felt cured. Now, our study is 3 MDMA sessions. So he was on his way driving for the 3rd MDMA session when he got a call from the VA, finally, we're ready for your appointment. And this was an appointment for him to describe his symptoms and see if he could get disability payments. And the average cost to the VA is around $1.5 million, lifetime cost.
Okay.
Because these are kids in their early 20s.
Right.
Most of them. And if they get disability payments, they go for the rest of their lives. So
he passed on that.
He passed on that. He said that there's something about the military ingrained in you about leaving nobody behind. You all take care of each other.
Sure.
And so he started feeling like he didn't really need the money, but there were other people that did. And that he wanted the pride of working. But he said he knew everything he needed to say to describe his symptoms to get lifetime disability payments.
Okay.
And he decided not to do that.
All right. And did you give this evidence to
we told this to the military.
And what'd they say?
They said this is really important.
Okay.
They didn't say here's half the money, we'll give it to you for your research.
But they noted it as
They noted it, and they said we are now open to possibly funding some studies. So the military is not ready to fund studies in active duty soldiers.
Okay.
But they're willing, because I think they are worried that they take MDMA, they become pacifists.
Yeah, maybe.
And they're willing to support studies that we start with the VA.
Okay.
So we're a couple years away, I think, from Department of Defense funding, but we're only 3-4 months away from starting these studies in maybe 6 months, depending on how long it takes to design the protocols, in starting these proof of principle studies in direct collaboration with the VA. So that's our big breakthrough.
That's very powerful.